if you doing anything wrong, you doing anything criminal-wise, and you cooperate with law enforcement to get you out of trouble, that means you're cooperating. That means you're a rat.
I just had to listen to the prosecution's closing argument, and it was just so far from the truth that it really just has me drained at the end of the day.
It's not a matter of, turning your back on me. Like, how do you call a witness to testify against your comrade?
A lot of rappers have had their fair share of run-ins with the law, and no matter how gangster they may seem, nobody wants to spend extra time locked up. That's why the feds and prosecutors often use this to their advantage, offering reduced sentences in exchange for information.
You acknowledge the following statement. I recognize, accept, and deeply regret that my talent and music indirectly furthered YSL the gang to the detriment of my community.
Some rappers, like Tekashi 6 and 9ine, have been quick to spill the tea when push comes to shove. But then, there are others who've kept it solid in court, refusing to rat out their crew, even when the stakes were high. Let's take a closer look at a couple of those who stayed true. First up, Bobby Schmurda. Back in 2014, you couldn't turn on the radio or scroll through social media without hearing his viral hit, Hot N. That track was everywhere, and it wasn't just the music, it was the Schmunny dance too. Even Beyonce got in on the action, hitting the dance on her On the Run tour with Jay-Z. Bobby was on the fast track to stardom, but his rise came crashing down when the law caught up with him later that year. The rapper, whose real name is Aquil Pollard, found himself tangled in some serious legal trouble. It all kicked off on June 3, 2014, when Bobby was arrested after police claimed they caught him with a gun in an apartment. He tried to stash it under a sofa, but the cops weren't having it. He got out on a $10,000 bail, only to find himself back in handcuffs in December, alongside his brother Haveza and his GS9 label mate Rowdy Rebel.
Bobby, what do you have to say to your fans? Bobby, anything?
The charges were heavy: conspiracy to commit murder, reckless endangerment, drug possession, and firearms possession. But that wasn't all. Some of their crew were facing even worse charges, including murder and attempted murder. The authorities linked them to a gang called GS9, which just so happened to be the name of Bobby's record label. The feds had been keeping an eye on GS9 for a while, investigating them for various shootings and murders, long before Bobby blew up in the music scene. Fast forward to 2016, and Bobby Schmurda faced a real test of loyalty. The prosecutors offered him a deal, a reduced 5-year sentence if he cooperated and turned informant against his GS9 brothers, including Rowdy Rebel. But Bobby wasn't about to flip. He stood his ground and refused to snitch, even though it meant taking on more time behind bars. Instead, he accepted a plea deal for 7 years, pleading guilty to conspiracy and criminal weapons possession charges. He later explained his decision, saying, "I did it for Rowdy. They offered me 5 and offered Rowdy 12. They said the only way they'll give him 7 is if I took 7 too. So, I had to take one for the dogs."
He said, "I did it for Rowdy. They offered me 5 and offered Rowdy 12. They say the only way they'd give him 7 is if I took 7, so I had to take one for the dog."
Bobby Schmurda spent time in Rikers Island before being transferred to Clinton Correctional Facility in upstate New York. Originally, he was supposed to be released in December 2021, but he managed to secure an early release, getting out 10 months ahead of schedule. His refusal to snitch earned him a lot of respect in the rap community, including praise from Boozy Badazz, who called him one of the real ones. Boozy went on to say, "It's a shame how the world don't glorify the real ones, SMH. Rats get more love than the stand-up guys." And speaking of Boozy Badazz, no one in the game may hate snitches as much as he does. Boozy has absolutely zero love for anyone who cooperates with the authorities, and he's never been shy about making that known. At the 2023 BET Awards, he opened up about his deep-rooted disdain for snitches, explaining that it's personal for him. "Because it happened to my family," Boozy said. "I've had 2 uncles snitched on that did 20 or 10 years. I was on death row because somebody lied on me and snitched on me. It's been detrimental to my family since the 80s, so that's why I have no love for people who do that." Boozy's experience with the streets of Baton Rouge, Louisiana shaped him into who he is today. Growing up, he faced more than his fair share of legal troubles, including a major arrest in 2009 when he got caught with drugs and a firearm while driving. Despite the serious charges, his legal team worked out a plea deal that reduced his potential 10-year sentence to just 2 years. But even under house arrest with an ankle monitor, Boozy couldn't stay out of trouble, violating his probation and landing back behind bars. Things took an even darker turn when Boozy was indicted for first-degree murder in the death of Terry Boyd. It was a life-or-death situation for Boozy, as he faced the possibility of the death penalty. But even under immense pressure, Boozy refused to cooperate with the authorities or rat out anyone. He knew the code of the streets and lived by it with unwavering loyalty. In the end, Boozy was exonerated of the murder charge and narrowly escaped the death penalty. When Boozy finally walked out of prison, it was clear he'd come out with a different perspective, though one thing stayed the same: his absolute disdain for snitching. This hate ran so deep that it led to a pretty wild move. Boozy ended up pulling the plug on a much-hyped joint album he was supposed to drop with T.I.
Coming out.
No.
Oh! So you have a finished album with T.I. that's not coming out?
No, because it ruined everything.
Because of that?
It ruined everything.
Now, this decision wasn't just out of the blue. It all went back to a viral moment in 2020 when T.I. admitted in a video that he had once snitched on his dead cousin to dodge some legal heat back in the early days of his career. And yeah, it was a dead relative we're talking about, which might not even count for most folks, but Boozy, he wasn't having it. Boozy made his feelings crystal clear in an interview that left nothing to the imagination. He didn't sugarcoat a thing, saying, "I don't spare my mother effing body. Because if you're doing anything wrong, you're doing anything criminal, and you cooperate with law enforcement to get you out of trouble. That means you're cooperating. That means you're a rat."
If you're doing anything wrong, you doing anything criminal-wise, and you cooperate with law enforcement to get you out of trouble, that means you're cooperating. That means you're a rat.
For Boozy, it's black and white. If you're working with the cops to save your skin, you're a snitch. No questions asked. Now, let's talk about Tay-K, the Texas rapper who blew up almost overnight with his raw, no-holds-barred music that mirrored the chaos of his life. Born Tamor McIntyre, Tay-K had dreams of making it big in Arlington, Texas, where he started getting noticed as part of the Daytona Boys. He was dropping tracks like Drift and Biff Zanin that were putting him on the map. But things took a dark turn when he was just 16. That's when he got caught up in a murder charge that would flip his life upside down. In July 2016, Tay-K and 6 others, including Megan Holt and Ariana Barat, planned a robbery that ended in tragedy. Their target was 21-year-old Ethan Walker, a drug dealer. But the situation spiraled out of control and Walker was shot dead during the robbery, though one other person made it out alive. Tay-K got slapped with a capital murder charge, which landed him on house arrest while he waited for his trial. But Tay-K wasn't about to sit around and wait for his fate to be decided. On March 26, 2017, he decided to take matters into his own hands, literally cutting off his GPS ankle monitor and making a run for it. He even bragged about it on Twitter, saying, "F this house arrest shit F12. They gon' have to catch me on hood." And while he was on the run, Tay-K dropped The Race, a track that quickly became a viral hit, where he essentially rapped about his life on the run and how he was dodging the law. The song was more than just a hit. It became evidence the authorities used against him in court. Tay-K's run didn't last long though. By June 2017, U.S. Marshals caught up with him in New Jersey, and when they did, they hit him with even more charges. He was linked to another murder and an aggravated assault. One incident involving the robbery, shooting, and killing of 23-year-old Mark Saldivar at a San Antonio Chick-fil-A, and another where he assaulted a 65-year-old man in an Arlington park. When it finally came time for Tay-K to face the music, things got serious. He was tried as an adult on capital murder charges. Although he pled guilty to 2 counts of aggravated robbery, he stood firm in denying that he was responsible for the actual murder. Despite the track The Race, where he showed no signs of remorse and even flaunted his disdain for the law, Tay-K stuck to his guns and refused to snitch on his co-defendants. He took full responsibility for his actions but didn't drag anyone else down with him. Even though he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, the jury still found him guilty because he had participated in the robbery, and during that crime, someone else ended up killing Walker. Prosecutors argued that Tay-K knew the risks, that things could get deadly, when he agreed to the plan to rob Walker for money and drugs. The court wasn't lenient. They handed him a hefty sentence, 55 years in prison. Throughout the trial, his defense argued that he shouldn't be convicted of murder since he wasn't the one who fired the fatal shot. But the jury wasn't swayed, and Tay-K went down hard. Though he never broke the code, he didn't cooperate with the cops, didn't snitch on anyone, and accepted his fate. And now, we've got to talk about King Von. If there's one thing King Von stood by, it was that you never, ever snitch. Not even on your worst enemy. Born Davon Bennett on August 9, 1994 in Chicago, Illinois, King Von was a rising star in the rap game, known for his raw talent and storytelling that brought the gritty realities of street life to life. But his journey was anything but smooth. Growing up in O Block, one of the most dangerous neighborhoods on Chicago's South Side, Von faced violence and hardship from an early age. He formed a tight bond with fellow Chicago rapper Lil Durk, who had already made a name for himself in the industry. Durk saw something special in Von and took him under his wing, helping him navigate the music scene. In 2018, Von dropped his debut single, Crazy Story, and it blew up. The song's vivid storytelling and raw portrayal of life on the streets caught fire, propelling him into the spotlight. But as his music career took off, Von's past continued to haunt him. He had a long rap sheet, with charges ranging from gun possession to assault. When he was just 16, Von went to jail for the first time, and 2 years later, he got arrested for unlawful possession of a firearm. Then in November 2019, he found himself in even deeper trouble. He was arrested for attempted murder related to a shooting in Atlanta, Georgia. Von claimed it was self-defense, but the charges were serious, and he was looking at a long stretch behind bars. Despite all the legal challenges and the pressure that came with them, Von never snitched. He stayed loyal to his crew and his code, even when facing down some of the toughest moments of his life. And he didn't hold back when it came to his disdain for snitches either. Von even called out Akon publicly for collaborating with Tekashi 6ix9ine IINA, tweeting that he could never forgive Akon for making a song with that rad-ass S. He also made it clear that he had no respect for Tekashi himself, who had famously turned informant. But Von's story took a tragic turn on November 6, 2020. While he was outside a nightclub in Atlanta, an altercation broke out, and Von was fatally shot. His death shocked the music world and left his fans and loved ones grieving the loss of a rising star who, despite his troubled past, had stayed true to his principles to the very end. Next up, we dive into February 1995 when Tupac Shakur, the iconic Me Against the World legend, started serving a sentence ranging from 18 months to 4.5 years at Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, New York. This came after he was convicted on first-degree SA charges involving a woman named Ayanna Jackson. The incident, which took place in November 1993, began with a consensual encounter in Tupac's Manhattan hotel room. However, things took a dark turn the next day when Jackson returned to the same room, only to claim she was assaulted by Tupac, his road manager Charles Man Fuller, former Jimmy Henchman associate Jacques Haitian Jack Agnant, and another male. Tupac, always outspoken, denied any wrongdoing during the trial, insisting he never conspired with the other men.
My life is ruined because nobody has a chance to get the facts.
And the fact is that there was no semen found.
No semen found, no forcible entry, no entry into the anal, no nothing, none of that.
Fast forward to October 12, 1995, Tupac's fortunes shifted dramatically when Death Row Records boss Suge Knight came through, posting a whopping $1.4 million bail to secure his release. Tupac didn't waste any time showing his gratitude, immediately signing with Death Row, a move that would mark a pivotal turn in his career and life. Next up, let's talk about the Fugees refugee camp all-stars who from 1996 to 1998 were riding high on a wave of success, bringing credibility to the rap game with emerging stars like Cannabis and John Fort. Now, John Fort's story is one of those cautionary tales that make you pause. After his Grammy-nominated ghostwriting work on the Fugees' multi-platinum classic album The Score and his standout performance on Wyclef Jean's Bee Gees' sampled solo debut single We Trying to Stay Alive in 1997, Forty seemed to have it all. But after the cold reception of his debut solo album Poli-Sci in 1998, things took a sharp turn. Despite the album receiving critical acclaim, commercially it was a flop, selling about 100,000 copies, considered a brick back in the day. Forte hit hard times and resorted to some risky moves. In 2001, he was arrested at Newark International Airport after federal agents caught him accepting a briefcase with 14 kilograms of liquid cocaine worth about $1.4 million on the streets. He was charged with possession with intent to distribute cocaine and conspiracy to distribute, landing a minimum 14-year sentence in federal prison at FCI Loretto in Pennsylvania. But even with his back against the wall, Fort refused to snitch. He didn't give up any names, standing by a code that would see him serve 6 years in prison. It wasn't until legendary soft rock singer Carly Simon, a close friend, stepped in. She lobbied U.S. Senator Orrin Hatch to reduce his sentence, arguing that it was his first offense. In a surprising twist, President George W. Bush commuted Forte's sentence on November 24, 2008, and 4 weeks later, Fort walked out of prison a free man. Next up, let's dive into the story of Shine, the son of a former Belize prime minister. Shine's deep baritone voice and gritty lyrics made him a glaring echo of the notorious Big, and he was poised to fill the void left by Biggie's tragic death in 1997. At just 21, Shine was a rising star, with his career set to take off under Diddy's Bad Boy imprint. But everything changed on the night of December 27, 1999. Shine was rolling with Diddy and Jennifer Lopez's entourage at Club New York in Manhattan when things went sideways. Diddy, chilling in the VIP section, stepped out into the crowd and encountered a man who reportedly made some disrespectful comments. The situation escalated quickly, and soon enough guns were drawn. Shine, caught in the middle, fired a warning shot, which he claimed was in response to shots fired by the other group. Unfortunately, 2 people were hit, including Natanya Rubin, who later claimed in court that Diddy had a gun. Throughout the trial, Shine stuck to his story. He acted in self-defense, but he never revealed who fired the initial shots that injured the 2 victims. Charged with attempted murder, assault, and reckless endangerment, Shine faced the possibility of 25 years behind bars. Despite the pressure, Shine never turned on Diddy. While Diddy was acquitted after his legal team advised Shine to get his own counsel, Shine wasn't so lucky. On June 1, 2001, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison.
He was the Uber star, and I was just up and coming, so, yeah, it's gonna be a show. But he used that to just threw me off.
After serving his time, Shine was released from Woodbourne Correctional Facility in early 2009, only to be deported to his native Belize as a non-citizen felon. Next up, let's talk about Myon, who was really starting to make waves in the late 1990s. Discovered and managed by the late Chris Lighty, a giant in the industry, Myon quickly caught the attention of Island Def Jam, securing a deal that seemed destined to catapult him into the upper echelon of hip-hop. At just 23, the NY General was laying down fire bars and had already made his mark with standout guest spots on 2 tracks for the hip-hop all-star compilation Violator, the album in 1999 including the banger You Can't Stop Me. But just as his star was on the rise, things took a dark turn. Right before the album dropped, Myon was allegedly involved in a series of robberies targeting 2 cab drivers in his hometown. The timing couldn't have been worse. He was convicted on August 2, 1999, by a Bronx County court judge who found him guilty of committing one of the robberies back in March 1998. Facing charges that could have locked him away for up to 50 years, Myon ended up serving 7.
Two cab drivers got, I guess, beat up and robbed.
One was robbed at gunpoint. No, both of them were supposedly robbed at gunpoint. One was beat up and jumped by a bunch of people, and one was...
Even today, Myon maintains that he's innocent, but despite the pressure, he never snitched on the person he believes actually committed the crimes. It's a testament to his character, but it also shows how quickly life can derail, even when you're on the brink of something huge. Next up, we've got Loon, another artist whose life took some dramatic twists and turns. After Biggie's tragic death in 1997, Ma Dollar E's surprising decision to leave the music industry for Christian ministry in 1999, and Shine's incarceration, Loon became Bad Boy Records' de facto flagship rapper. With his smooth style and undeniable charm, the How You Like That rapper managed to carve out a niche for himself. But in 2004, Loon decided it was time to break away and start his own thing, launching Boss Up Entertainment. Then, in a major life shift, he converted to Islam in 2008, changing his legal name from Chauncey Lamont Hawkins to Amir Junaid Muhadith, and stepping away from the rap game entirely to dedicate his life to his new faith. He even moved to Egypt to immerse himself in his religious journey. But life had more challenges in store. During a trip to Brussels, Belgium in 2011, Muhadith was arrested by local police, and by May 2012 he found himself extradited back to the United States. In July 2013, he was hit with a 14-year federal prison sentence on charges of conspiracy with intent to traffic 1 or more kilos of heroin. Despite the heavy charges, Muhadith stayed true to his principles, choosing not to give up any names of others involved in the international drug ring. Fast forward to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the situation in prisons became increasingly dire. Amid these conditions, Muhadith was granted early release on July 29, 2020. So which other rapper do you think should have made it onto this list? Drop your thoughts in the comments and we'll see you in the next video.